I have attended over 900 council sessions in my lifetime. Wars declared, alliances broken, entire species removed from our star maps like forgotten ink stains. I have seen sovereign empires crumble and infant civilizations rise. But this session? This was about humans. Again. And I nearly fell asleep. The report was simple. A hospital ship, marked clearly with universal medical insignia, had been boarded and burned near the Dravari border. Civilian, non-combatant, over 300 souls lost, many of them children, humanitarian workers, and patients. The kind of tragedy we'd file under unfortunate collateral and quietly forget within the week. The humans, of course, protested. Loudly, predictably. Their ambassador, a tall, unsmiling man named Ambassador Grant, stood in front of the high assembly with eyes that could slice obsidian. I remember thinking, they're always so dramatic. Humans are known for emotional volatility, a minor species from a small blue world, too young to understand the cold mathematics of galactic diplomacy. The perpetrators were Dravari pirates, said the Lorkathi delegate, his gills flapping lazily. Unfortunate, yes. Intentional? Highly unlikely. I nearly applauded his performance, polished, measured, full of exactly the right amount of dismissive apathy. But then Ambassador Grant did something curious. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked around the room slowly, one delegate at a time, with that same sharp, unblinking stare. And then he said, in a voice so cold it silenced the room, "Earth hears your response." Then he left. That was all. No shouting, no threats, no demands for reparations or sanctions, just that sentence. And yet, as I watched him walk out of the hall, back straight, hands calmly folded behind his back, I felt something strange coil at the base of my spine. Not fear. Not yet. But the first drop of unease. It began 3 days later. At first, it was just noise, documents, petitions, formal grievances, stacks of digital files submitted by Earth's delegation, citing breaches of over 24 interstellar treaties. One of them, to my embarrassment, bore my own signature. I hadn't realized we'd agreed to that particular humanitarian clause back then. Most of us hadn't. The humans apparently had remembered. And then the sessions resumed. Ambassador Grant was punctual. He always arrived alone. No aides, no bodyguards, no entourage of feathered interpreters or psychic whisperers. Just him, in the same dark suit, holding a slim tablet and nothing more. He never smiled. He never yelled. He simply presented the facts. Date of incident, coordinates, medical clearance codes, recorded emergency transmissions, survivors' statements, autopsy data, weapon signatures. No embellishment, no appeals to emotion, just evidence, stacked with surgical precision. "You call us emotional," he said once, voice level, "but we are also meticulous." A few delegates chuckled. A few more shifted uncomfortably. I, myself, said nothing. The Dravari representative, Threx Marn, a slug-shaped brute with the political grace of a concussion, dismissed the accusations entirely, called them slanderous, said the footage was doctored, typical syndicate noise. But Ambassador Grant never even looked at him. "Counselor Marn is irrelevant to Earth's position," he said flatly. "We are not here to persuade criminals. We are here to notify the Council of a pattern, and to issue our response." That caught some ears. "What response?" someone asked. Grant turned his eyes, those cutting obsidian shards, toward the central podium. "Justice, in a form you have yet to recognize." After that, he bowed, as if it were a dinner meeting, and walked out. He did not return for 2 weeks. In that time, our nav intelligence units recorded a curious migration of human vessels. Civilian routes were redirected. Commercial fleets, quietly, went dark. Outer patrol stations near Terran sectors began to report increased scan interference. Minor anomalies, technical oddities, nothing overt, nothing actionable. But something was moving. And I began to suspect Earth was no longer speaking, because it had nothing more to say. It is difficult to explain silence to a species that has never feared it. The Qatari ambassador once said humans talk too much, endlessly leaking language like cracked water pipes. She meant it as an insult. Lately, however, I find myself missing their chatter. Ambassador Grant did not return. Earth's seat in the chamber remained empty, its banner folded. Formal inquiries were sent. No replies. No diplomatic pings. Their embassy was under renovation, according to the single automated message we received. I walked past it once. Pure curiosity, of course. The human crest above the door was gone. The lights were off. There was no security, no staff. Just a locked building. Quiet. Watching. At the same time, Terran trading guilds began severing contracts. Human-owned corporations retracted from multi-species consortia. Shared research projects went dark, data offline, systems scrubbed, and still, not a single shot fired. The Dravari Syndicate, ever the opportunists, took this as a victory. Their envoys grew louder, their accusations sharper. They accused Earth of cowardice, called them melodramatic, threatened to retaliate against any aggression, as if Earth had done anything yet. It was around this time I received a visit, unofficial, off-record, from a junior liaison in my own government who worked with Terran cultural liaisons. He was pale, shaken, drank half a carafe of synthaleaf before he spoke. "They're not preparing for war," he said. "They're already in it." I scoffed, of course. Preposterous. Our sensors showed no offensive formations, no military convoys, no coordinated fleet deployment, just gaps, absences, places where Earth used to be, like they were retracting, folding inward, vanishing from view. The liaison leaned closer. "That's the point. You won't see them coming." For the first time in my 300-year career, I felt something wholly unfamiliar snake its way through my diplomatic core. Dread. And I wasn't alone. By week's end, the Council convened a security session, emergency protocols, threat assessment evaluations, quiet questions asked in even quieter corridors. What are they planning? Have they allied with anyone? Do they possess hidden assets? Nobody had answers. And then, without ceremony or notice, Earth's embassy doors opened. No guards, no flags, no lights. Just a single message projected across the entrance. "We have waited. You have heard nothing. Now you will witness everything." And then the building sealed again. It happened without warning. No alarms, no pings, not even a static anomaly on the long-range scanners. Just absence. The Dravari stronghold on Karaz 5, a planetary fortress city orbiting a mineral-rich dead star, vanished. One moment, it was a crime-ridden beacon pulsing with illegal transmissions, smuggling lanes, and raider patrols. The next, it was a dark smear of cooling plasma. No escape pods. No distress beacons. No wreckage. Just a growing sphere of ionized silence, like someone had surgically removed that section of reality. The Council scrambled. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the Dravari Syndicate, expecting retaliation, but Dravari Command didn't respond. Their local warband, once rabid with threats and denials, simply stopped transmitting. Some assumed internal conflict, sabotage, perhaps even rebellion. But I knew. You don't lose an entire military installation from friendly fire. You don't lose it cleanly, completely, with no radiation drift, no bodies, no signal echo. Only one species had gone quiet, and now one enemy of Earth had gone silent too. Then came the second incident. A Dravari dreadnought, Vornak's Talon, failed to arrive at its scheduled patrol checkpoint. Its route took it near the Terran exclusion zone, a once sparse, now thoroughly abandoned corridor of space. The Talon never reached its destination. Black box data was partially recovered from a rescue probe. What little we could decipher chilled the room, a burst of static. Then a human voice, calm, filtered, feminine. "Hostile detected. Tactical protocol Theta-7 engaged." No screams, no weapons fire. Just the sound of hull plating shearing like dry bark. The rest was silence. I was there when the Council met to discuss it. The session was not public. The words preemptive retaliation and human escalation were used freely, without the usual diplomatic varnish. Even the Syndicate had nothing to say. Their envoys were absent. Whether by choice or force, no one knew. And then Ambassador Grant returned. Not to speak, not to plead. He simply walked into the Council chamber, placed a small data drive onto the central plinth, and turned to leave. No fanfare, no bow. Just a cold glance over his shoulder as he reached the door. Consider that justice has begun. He didn't wait for questions. There was nothing to debate. The drive contained time-stamped footage from both attacks, human vessels, unidentified class, striking with surgical precision, in and out before orbital defenses could track. Each strike lasted less than 20 seconds. It was not vengeance. It was execution. The footage played on loop for hours. I watched the room shift from arrogance to unease, then something far more primal. Delegates leaned in at first, smirking, skeptical. But by the third replay, there were no comments. By the sixth, no movement. The only sound was the hum of the projection. The vessel Earth deployed was not catalogued. It bore no formal registry, no alliance markings, and no visual signature that matched known classes. It shimmered in and out of frame, like a ghost skipping between dimensions. Whatever tech it used, it did not exist in any known database. A warship designed to be unknowable, and its weapons were silent. No energy trails, no missile plumes. The dreadnought simply imploded in on itself, like space had clenched a fist around it. No shockwave, just compression, total and absolute. A kill delivered with the quiet efficiency of a professional executioner. After the 10th playback, someone finally spoke, a Zenari scholar trembling slightly. "They didn't destroy it," he whispered. "They removed it." The council's high chair, a crusted moss-colored being with the expression of wet paper, tried to stabilize the mood. Talk of proportionality, diplomatic recall, open channels. It sounded more like a prayer than policy. But Earth was not praying. That same day, their embassy lit up again. This time not a cryptic warning, but a broadcast. Not encrypted. Not directed to council channels. Not addressed to the Dravari. It was sent to everyone. Public networks. Civilian relays. Freighter boards. Pirate frequencies. Every being in charted space heard the same voice. Ambassador Grant's, calm as still water. "This is not war. This is response." He paused. "We are not seeking conquest. We do not desire revenge. But justice is no longer negotiable. You have ignored our words. Now you will respect our silence." Then the feed cut to black. And for the first time in my life, I understood the difference between peace and restraint. Earth hadn't gone dark because it was afraid. Earth had gone dark because it no longer saw a reason to explain itself. The Dravari syndicate, for all their bluster, did not last a full cycle. They didn't go down in flames or scream defiance across the stars. They simply vanished, installation by installation, ship by ship, like someone was erasing a stain from a tablecloth. Their primary fueling depot in the Larkin Expanse? Gone. Surveillance drones showed only rippling vacuum, where once a web of scaffolding and gun platforms stretched for miles. No explosion, no energy discharge, just empty sky. 2 days later, the Razorhold vaults, one of the largest black market databanks in known space, went offline. When a neutral salvage crew arrived, the entire station had been gutted. No bodies, no weapons, just walls, smooth and cold like they'd never housed anything alive. Earth never claimed responsibility. They didn't need to. By then, no one else could have done it. Council channels overflowed with panic. Species that once mocked humans scrambled to audit every deal they had ever signed with Earth. Treaties were reviewed, contracts rewritten. Entire sectors of space began transmitting open declarations of neutrality, directed specifically to Terran frequencies. But Earth did not respond. I attended an emergency panel convened to evaluate Terran threat vectors. It was a farce, a theater of confusion. Every expert brought in admitted the same truth. We don't know how they're doing this. Not with the fleets we can see, not with the power we've measured. Then one analyst, young, trembling, clearly aware he was risking his career, stood and said, "I don't think we're watching their fleet. I think we're watching their decoys." He was escorted out before he could elaborate. I stayed behind. I remember looking down at the datapad in my hands. There was a message. I hadn't seen it arrive. It bore no sender, no encryption header, just a single line. Justice proceeds. Observation recommended. Interference discouraged. I deleted it, of course, but the memory remained burned behind my eyes. The final blow came when the Dravari High Spire, their most fortified seat of power, buried beneath a moon-sized asteroid, broadcast a distress call. It lasted 7 seconds. The first 5 were static. The 6th was screaming. The 7th was Ambassador Grant's voice. Judgment rendered. Then silence. Total, irreversible silence. The syndicate was gone, and humanity had not lost a single ship. They called it a trial, but there was no pretense of tradition. It began with a notification. Earth would host a tribunal of accountability on Station Solace, a neutral observation platform orbiting the Terran border. No invitation, no request for cooperation, just a schedule, a location, and one line beneath. Attendance optional, witnessing recommended. Of course we went. Representatives from over 50 worlds filled the circular chamber. No translators, no mediators, just one central platform, dark and sterile. Then the lights came on. 12 Dravari stood in stasis fields. Leaders, generals, financial backers, warlords. Every single one of them previously believed to be in hiding, dead, or outside the reach of capture. Yet here they were, silent, restrained, and very much alive. How Earth found them, no one knew. How Earth took them without any conflict, without alerting anyone, terrified us more. Ambassador Grant entered last. No escort, no theatrics. Just his quiet footsteps across the steel floor. When he spoke, it was not loud. It didn't need to be. These individuals authorized the assault on an Earth medical vessel designated Mercy Wind. They oversaw the deaths of 316 non-combatants, including children and aid workers. Earth recognizes no jurisdiction capable of addressing this violation. Therefore, we do it ourselves. One of the Dravari screamed something, indecipherable through the field distortion. Another tried to spit. Grant didn't flinch. You are not owed an audience. You are owed the mirror of your own actions. And then, the playback began. The chamber dimmed. The full, uncut footage of the hospital ship's final moments unfolded across a massive surround projection. Every scream, every pleading voice, every act of indifference by Dravari raiders. We watched the children die. We watched the medics shot. We watched the evacuation pod ejected, then shredded midair. I felt my stomach twist. Even the stone-faced Carthari rep looked away. When the lights returned, Grant didn't speak again. He just pressed a single button on his pad, and the 12 stasis fields dimmed to black. No flash, no blood, just silence, final and irreversible. Judgment rendered. I used to believe I understood Earth. We all did. They arrived to the galactic stage late, fumbling with outdated warp drives and patched-together language protocols. Their representatives were overly polite, awkward, so very earnest. The kind of species you assign to a minor trade lane and forget. But then I saw the reports, classified ones. There weren't many copies, and they weren't easy to get. But I'm a diplomat. Old habits, older favors. And what I read nearly broke my mind. Earth has been watching us for decades. Not just interacting, observing, quietly, deeply. Their data archives contain social, military, and cultural analyses on every major species in Council space, and not just surface impressions. They've dissected our behaviors, predicted our political fractures, even mapped our likely crisis responses. And that was just the sociology. The technological section read like fantasy. Earth never stopped innovating. What we thought were Terran limitations were self-imposed, deliberately. Their public tech, obsolete by their own standards. Their civilian vessels, built with capped engines, throttled AI, and dampened sensors. Behind those facades, autonomous warfleets, quantum field disruption weapons, cloaked orbital factories, shipyards hidden in gravitational dead zones. Artificial intelligences sophisticated enough to pass not just the Turing test, but sentience classification standards. Why didn't they show this earlier? The files had an answer. Because peace was our preference, not our weakness. And suddenly, everything made sense. Earth had prepared for a war it hoped would never come. And when it did, they didn't mobilize. They simply unleashed. Ambassador Grant didn't just bring judgment to the Council. He brought a reminder that Earth had been listening while we mocked them, studying while we underestimated them, building while we slept. They never raised their voice, because they were sharpening the blade. The chamber was packed, Not with bluster, not with mockery, but with silence. 57 species sent delegates. Some wore ceremonial robes, some arrived in armored suits. Others came unadorned, not from humility, but because they understood symbolism would no longer mask irrelevance. The council was to vote. The motion, to formally recognize Earth as an autonomous enforcement power with galactic authority to intervene in crimes against civilians and medical assets, should the council fail to respond in time. In other words, to give Earth the power it had already taken. No one said it aloud, of course, but we all knew what this vote meant. Sanction it, and Earth becomes the sword no one can challenge. Reject it, and gamble on a future where Earth might decide the council is obsolete. Ambassador Grant did not appear. His seat remained empty, as it had through most of the proceedings. It didn't need to be filled. Earth had already made its position clear, with action, not words. The debate was brief. Most delegates simply stood to read prepared statements, each carefully worded to sound cooperative, yet cautious. All of them described Earth in the same language now, measured, unforgiving, precise, necessary. But I noticed something. Even the most skeptical of them, those who once laughed at humanity, never used the word dangerous anymore. Dangerous things are reckless. Humans are not. When my turn came, I stood slowly. I didn't prepare a speech. I didn't need one. I voted against Terran entry into the council 2 decades ago, I said. I feared they were too emotional, too volatile. I was wrong. A pause. Emotion isn't their weakness. It's their engine. But it is their discipline that terrifies me. There was no applause. This was not a performance. When the vote was tallied, the result came as no surprise. 50 in favor, 5 abstained, 2 against. And Earth? Earth didn't even vote. It didn't have to. Later, as we filed out of the chamber, a transmission pinged every council delegate at once. We accept the responsibility. We expect no gratitude. No name, no title, no signature. Only a symbol, a pair of hands, one wounded, one steady, cradling a star. Earth's new crest. I once said humans talked too much. Now I miss their voices. It's been 6 standard months since the vote. Earth has not attended a single council session. They issue no decrees, no warnings, no promises. Yet their presence is felt in every decision we make. Every motion passed considers one silent question. Would Earth approve? That is the new reality. No fleets linger over our heads. No patrols orbit our colonies. Yet piracy in the outer sectors has plummeted. Refugee lanes once ignored are now protected, not by ships, but by fear. The kind of fear that keeps warlords up at night, watching shadows for engines that don't hum. It is not peace, it is something deeper, something earned. I met Ambassador Grant once more, not in the council, not in any chamber. We spoke beneath an artificial sky on a Terran diplomatic vessel docked at a neutral station. The room was quiet, painted in twilight colors, simulated breeze, no guards, no symbols, just him, sipping something warm and bitter. Why didn't you show them more? I asked. He glanced at me, not unkindly. Would they have listened? I shook my head. He continued, voice level. You think we did this to scare you. We didn't. We did this to show you that we could have responded with rage, with fire, with extinction, but we chose justice. A pause, and that choice matters more than the weapons. It struck me then, how utterly human that was. To wield terrible power, and choose not to use it until you have no other choice. When we parted, he said nothing else, just nodded and disappeared into the quiet halls of his ship. And I left changed, not just by what I had seen, but by what I had believed, and now no longer did. Humanity is not what we thought. They are not newcomers, not children fumbling through the dark. They were always awake. They just waited for the galaxy to wake up too. Now, when I look at Earth's emblem, those 2 hands, one steady and one wounded, I finally understand its meaning. Power, held with pain, delivered with care. So if you ask me now what I think of humans, I will not call them terrifying. I will call them necessary, and pray that we never give them a reason to change their minds.